Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amy, and I used to be a full-time retail pharmacist until I quit my job about a year and a half ago to do Amazon selling full-time. And you can hear more about my story up here or in the description below. Ever since I quit my job, I have created a community where it's fully woman-centric, a place where you can bounce ideas off of each other. And once a week, we go on live to talk about a specific topic. And this week's topic is on the good, the bad, and the ugly of becoming an Amazon seller. So let's hop right in. Really excited to be talking about this topic today. Let's see, we are welcoming Jen, Lisa, Fawn, I hope I said that right, Jania, Jennifer, Linda, Michelle, Violetta. So let us know where you guys are tuning in from. Hi Jen, just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background about us. So we've been selling on Amazon almost 6 years now, since the end of 2015. And we've done everything from private label to retail arbitrage to now we do Replen. And I'll talk about the good, the bad, and ugly of every single type of selling models. But now we do Replen, and that's what has been, and then Replen. So let me share my screen. That's the gist of our story. Most recently, when we went back to doing Replen, I was pregnant with my daughter, our third kid, and then the pandemic happened, and my husband lost his job. Cece was studying abroad. She had to be sent back because there was a panorama going on, and then she started helping us out with our business, and she never left and never went back to school. So she continued her journey with us and been a very valuable part of our team. And so this is just kind of our story. Your story might look different, but because we lost his job and I was pregnant and I didn't want to go back to work during maternity leave, I actually helped him with the business, and that's when we saw exponential growth. And so here we are a year and a half later, still in the panorama, but doing much better now. And so we're just gonna share with you all our story and our take. We want to be as transparent as possible with you, because I think a lot of times people might portray selling on Amazon as, you're making like a ton of money and I'm going to buy my Lamborghini and stay in my mansion and live forever and ever. But it doesn't always happen that way. There's gonna be some times where, you're gonna see challenges. Just like any other business, this is a real business and it's going to have its own challenges, although it's very rewarding. We were able to both rely on this source of income to do this full time, but we've had a lot of hiccups, and so we'll talk about all of that. Our journey, like I said earlier, it started with private label and retail arbitrage. And with private label, the good thing is that everything is online. You can literally just do everything from your computer. You don't have to ever leave your house. So that's one of the good things about private label. We really like that. The bad thing is that it takes a lot of money to get started. Our first initial investment was about $4,000 in inventory. It was terrifying to wire $4,000 to China, but we did that. It's also time consuming because you have to spend time finding like a winning product. Like this is your one like home run product. So it's time consuming in that sense. But also it's a little risky because you're relying on just one product or maybe a handful of product to sell really well. So that's one of the bad. One of the ugly thing is that I spent, I think, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning was a normal time for me to talk to suppliers because that's when they're awake. So the ugly is just negotiating prices, staying up late, getting used to talk to overseas suppliers. So that was one of the ugly. Do you want to chime in and just talk about any other ugly that you can think of for private label?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say that the competition can be very tough because you're dealing with a lot of overseas sellers, a lot of them in China, where all these things are being manufactured. So they can be very cutthroat, right? First off, they can get these items for dirt cheap. Their cost of living is way lower, so they don't need as much of a profit margin as we do. And lastly, as we've seen lately, they'll do all sorts of underhanded tactics. They will hijack your listing. They'll offer gift cards for reviews, all sorts of other really shady stuff. Thankfully, Amazon has cracked down. I don't know if everybody's been kind of keeping up with Amazon news, but they actually banned a bunch of Chinese sellers, some really big ones. These are some Chinese sellers that were selling in excess of $1 billion a year. Amazon, even though they were making money off it, said we don't care. We're just going to go ahead and just ban you because you're breaking the rules. So that part of it is kind of gone away. But again, when you're private labeling, you're selling an item that meant a lot of other private labelers can also sell, and it's just really tough. I don't know if Amy mentioned like PPC, but just to get your listing ranked, you need to pay Amazon even more money to get pay-per-click ads to appear on buyers' desktops, and you have to kind of find ways to get reviews. As we know, you can't pay for reviews. You really never could. But even giving away products is frowned upon with Amazon, so it gets really, really hard. But yeah, so that's why private label just wasn't really a long-term solution for us.
Yeah, so PPC stands for pay per click for anybody who's brand new. It's a form of advertisement for Amazon. If you want to rank or get seen within the platform in the marketplace, that's what you have to pay for to get ranked. So a lot of competition, depending on what niche you choose. It can be super competitive, and you have to do giveaways to get ranking. So that's private label in a nutshell. So the next thing that we did, well, this was pretty much the way of passage into selling on Amazon, was retail arbitrage. And retail arbitrage is just buying anything low and then selling it high. So it was very easy to get started. We like for me, I just went straight to the clearance aisles when I was shopping at Walmart or Target or wherever, and then I find something that was in deep clearance and I just flipped it for a profit on Amazon. So that's retail arbitrage. And the good thing about it is that you're able to find these items for pretty much very easily, because you can go to any retail store and go to the clearance aisle, or you can go to a thrift store like Goodwill and find items that are new and have been discounted very, very heavily, and then resell it on Amazon for a profit. And for us, that was a very easy way to get started, but also it was very difficult to sustain. So we weren't able to consistently find items that sells over and over again. It's this month I found a really good item, but then next month it's very hard to do so. And then we just have to consistently find new items to sell. And it was just really time consuming, and it wasn't sustainable enough for us to just quit our job and do it full time. So that was the bad. And the ugly part of it is that peeling the stickers off of these clearance items was so like it was such a tedious task that we actually hired one of Cece's friends actually 5 years ago to do this, and her job was just to peel off stickers because it's just something that we didn't want to do. And so it was hard to and sometimes you have to clean off the box because it's been sitting for too long and it's dusty. So it wasn't very glamorous. So that's the ugly part of it. And then it was hard to return. So sometimes when items has been bought at clearance, the return policy might be a little bit harder to get them back to the store. And so that was one of the challenges that we had to face with retail arbitrage. And a lot of times you would go to the store and you fill up your cart, and then this will be a great day, but then next day you can't find anything because they don't have anything on sale anymore. And so you have to go to maybe another area of where you live to kind of scour the clearance aisle and find new items. So that was definitely the ugly part of retail arbitrage. Okay, and Replen. So this is kind of like our meat and potatoes of our business. Replen stands for replenishable. It's just any item that sells over and over again. So because of that, the number one good thing about it is it's predictable. So things that sells over and over again, you're able to replenish your inventory. Of course, there's going to be problems with it. Sometimes it doesn't sell anymore. Things might sell out. But the good thing is that if you're buying things for full price, you're able to go back to that same aisle that you picked it up from, or online, you can reorder it, and you're able to predict how much income you potentially can make. And so that's one of the good things that we love about Replen. Second thing is that it's scalable, sort of on the same level as sustainable, is you can scale it. So all you need to do to scale is to buy more products or find new products that are replenishable, right? So it's also scalable because you can outsource. You can get somebody to do the shopping for you very easily. We just handed our first shopper a list. Like I just gave her a list of products to buy and how much to buy, and she was able to do that. So very easy to outsource these type of tasks, as well as like prepping and packing. So we love the scalability of Replen. Another thing is, that should have been number three. The next good thing about the replenishable is that there's a choice between online and in-store. So with retail arbitrage, usually it's only online, unless you're doing online arbitrage. With private label, usually it's only online. I'm sorry, did I mix it up? With retail arbitrage, it's usually just in-store. And with private label, it is all online. So with Replen, you can actually do both. You can do online and in-store. So that's one of the things that we love. We started out with all in-store. Like it was the fastest way for us to find products. It was the easiest way. And so 100% of our products when we started out was found in-store. But then eventually we moved toward online arbitrage and finding replenishable products online. There's definitely a learning curve, and I'll talk about that in the bad with finding replenishable online, but it's doable. And that's one of the things that I really love. You can choose the type of model. Like one day, like for me, I actually miss shopping sometimes. And so when I am at home finding products online 100% of the time, I actually miss going in the store. So one day I was just shopping, doing my normal household shopping for our home, and I was triggered by finding Replen. So I would start doing research on my phone, and I would say, oh, okay, so I miss retail shopping, and I just started doing research, and it kind of like just came back. It was like riding a bike. And so that was one of the good things that I really like about Replen. It's just very flexible, and you can choose which type of shopping you would like, either online or in-store. Okay, so now let's talk about the bad. I'm not going to paint all rainbows and butterflies about Replen, because although it has a lot of benefits, there's also challenges as well. So one of the things is that it can be difficult. So unlike retail arbitrage, where a good amount of time that you spend at the store, because you're in the clearance aisle, you're able to find the products much faster that you can resell for a profit. With Replen, you're finding things at retail prices. So these are items that are at full price and are profitable, has a history of selling that are profitable, and you have to be able to sustain it, and no competition. Amazon is not selling. So it can be very hard, especially if you're doing it for the first time and you don't know how to read like the Keepa graph, for example. So Keepa is a tool that helps you to look at items over the span of years and years, and it will tell you how this item has been doing in terms of the prices and the rank, and how many competitors are on that listing. And so I had to kind of train myself to read the Keepa graph. So it wasn't a very smooth sailing for me in the beginning, because we had to buy some items and learn from it that after a week or 2 weeks, it just started to not sell anymore. And had I known how to read the Keepa graph, I could have saved myself so much time and money. We had 20, what is it, 20, 30 units, right, CC, of these shampoo that I bought because I thought that it was selling really well. And I had helium 10 that told me the number of sales per month. But little did I know it was only that variation. Um, like it was a variation listing. So the entire listing did well, but that variation itself didn't. So if I knew how to read Keepa, I would have seen that don't buy 20, maybe buy 2 or 3 to test it out to see if it'll work. And so we had to end up returning it. It was, a big headache, but at least we were able to recoup some of the costs. So that's one of the things that I really like about Replen is that it's very low risk. You buy items, and if it doesn't sell, you can return it and then send it back to the store. So, um, so it can be very difficult, but if you don't know how to read the Keepa graph, I would highly recommend getting used to it. There's a lot of different resources out there that will help you do it. We actually did a advanced Keepa training like a few months ago, and we kind of walk you through step by step. And the advanced Keepa training, it was paid, but if you guys are an Academy member, it's actually posted in there, so you don't have to pay for it again, the replay. And so if you are an Academy member, just know that all these paid trainings are included, so you don't have to pay for it again. And so that's one of the things I really like. Make sure you know how to read the Keepa graph. Okay. All right, the second thing that is challenging for Replen is it could be time consuming, learning curve, again, like having to read the Keepa graph, knowing how to find products like online was one of the biggest things that I had to really learn how to do correctly, because it was something that when I was on maternity leave, I didn't have a lot of time to go into the store to do product research. And so I wanted to learn how to do it online. And so right now, about 50% of our products are online. And we are now finding products for a lot of people. As you guys probably know, if you're in the pod, 100% of the products inside the pods are online. And so it's all been researched and vetted, and just to make sure that you guys have the best products. And so, you can save that time if you want to just have the product like handed to you, or you can learn about how to do it as well. Either way, you're going to get the products. Just a matter of how much time you have, how much you're willing to put into doing product research. Marty, she's one of the member inside the group. She loved doing product research and she wanted to be able to do it herself. And so that's what she does. She does her own product research. And even when I post like the pod, she tried the pod too and she loved it, but she just wants to do it herself. So if you're one of those people who just kind of want to do things by yourself, then you can absolutely learn how to do online arbitrage. But if you don't have a lot of time, like me, I have 3 kids and I didn't have a lot of time to do product research. So I would have loved it if there was a service like this, or at least I knew about it when back a year and a half ago, like the product find pods, like Amy's pod. I would have definitely jumped on it in a heartbeat. So it's a learning curve for sure, but again, it's doable. And if you are an academy, I just did a recent bonus on how to do online arbitrage, and we've been getting a lot of feedback from that, because there were some ways where I was finding products that a lot of people didn't know about, like looking at Keepa graphs. Actually, Keepa has a software that allows you to find products based on your criteria. There's also reverse sourcing, where you look at other competitors' storefront to see the items that they're selling and checking to make sure it's profitable. Tools that you can use, such as Resellers, and we'll link all of these tools. It's a lot, but I think we will link it. The tools that we use to do online arbitrage is like Resellers, Helium 10, IP Alert. So all of these are crucial if you're doing online arbitrage, just so you can save yourself some time. So I won't go into too much detail about the tools, but you can read more about it in the link that we's going to share. So competition. Yeah, this is this is one of the things that there will always be competition. And as we talked about it earlier in private label, there's also competition within Replen. And one of the things that is I like better about Replen is that the competition that you're facing against is at least fair. Like you're competing with other U.S. sellers. With private label, you're competing with overseas sellers who can find products for a much lower price than you. A lot of times when you're competing with replenishable products listings, it's just other sellers like you and I selling products. So, you know, we can't guarantee that the price won't tank as more sellers know about it. We can only base that on the history of the product. So if the product has a good like 3 months history of steady prices and steady sales, then I feel more confident selling that product. So there's a lot of ways for you to mitigate the risk for Replen. So that's one of the things that I really like. Although you can't stop, competitors from jumping in and selling the products and lowering the price just to get the sale. You just can only hope that everybody will just play nice and, wait your turn to get the sale. And eventually you'll get the sale if everybody just kind of keep their price at what it is, and we rotate the buy box. Amazon do rotate the buy box, and it'll be a nice, selling marketplace. But of course, it doesn't always happen. I know that sometimes a listing, a bunch of people jump on and lower the price, and that listing is no longer good. But that's one of the reasons why I limit the number of people in the pods to 15, so that not like 50 or 100 people jump on the listing. There's just a certain amount of number of people sharing these products so that we can just live harmoniously. I mean, that's kind of my hope for the world, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way. We can't control that, but we can only hope for the best. So, anything you want to add, we or Cece, about competition?
Really, the name of the game is perseverance. So, like Amy said, any Amazon seller is free to jump on a lot of these replen listings. So at the end of the day, you find a good replen listing, understand that the clock's ticking, right? If you happen to stumble upon it, other replen sellers are going to stumble upon it too. And, competition is going to drive the price down. It's good for the consumer, maybe not so good for sellers. And the price is going to get driven down, and then you just have to move on to your next product. So the name of the game is just kind of get in while it's hot, get out when it gets cold, and then just have a large stable of SKUs that you're selling on Amazon, and understand that this isn't like a passive type of business, right? It's not like you can just start selling on a handful of items and just kind of go in cruise control. It's going to require some work, constant attention, just to make sure that you're listing on profitable SKUs. And then, later on, I'll get into outsourcing where it can become a little bit more passive for you. But yeah, just realize the reason why it's such a lucrative and profitable type of selling is that it is challenging, right? And if you're willing to take on the challenge and overcome any problems, listen, we have problems probably every day. And it's how we overcome those challenges that allows us to basically beat the competition. People that can't kind of stand the heat, they're going to get out of the kitchen and they're just going to disappear. So you really want to be able to stay in the kitchen, handle the heat, and then just, make money. Like the longer you can stay in the business, the better chance you have of your business succeeding.
And I like that you bring up, if something doesn't work out, there's move on to another product, because there are, what is it, tens of millions of different SKUs on Amazon. So if something doesn't work out, just move on to the next product. It's not the end all be all. Okay, so the next topic, I'm gonna throw this to you, about returns and removal orders. So this is another bad about. I mean, this can happen to retail arbitrage or private label. But one of the things about Replen is that you can get returns. Very lucky for us, our return rate has been pretty low, to the point where sometimes we don't even look at our return reports. But one of the things is that people might not be happy and they return the product, and Unfortunately, if you're asking Amazon to fulfill your products for you, if you go through FBA, the picking and packing fee won't be returned to you just because they've already done the work. And because the customer returned the order doesn't mean they haven't done the work. So they won't refund that fee back to you, but you will get the fee. Why don't you take over? What actually gets refunded and what actually gets withheld?
Whenever a customer does return an item, um, assuming that the item comes back in resellable condition and you have that option turned on, Amazon will go ahead and their workers will inspect the item and then put it back into the fulfillment center to be sold again. If it turns out to be in unsellable condition, it's going to become, I believe, a stranded item, at which point it's either marked for automatic renewal if you have it turned on, or you need to manually do that yourself. And what removals are is simply returning the items from the Amazon fulfillment centers back to you. You can have it turned on automatically, like I just mentioned. That way you don't have to really think about it too much. In other cases, you may want to actually turn that off and then manually do the removal orders. That way you kind of know what's coming back and you can kind of track everything. So it just really depends on the workflow that you have set up. In terms of the fees, from what I recall, you know, Amazon won't give you back return all the fees because they have spent some money in order to actually pack and ship out these and deliver these items to the sellers. So that part of it may not get fully refunded. I believe the referral fee, which is a 15% that you are charged for every sale, that part should be refunded to you. But like Amy said, we don't really keep track of it too much as long as you're doing the business the right way. Honestly, you're more worried about, kind of like counting the money as it comes in versus stressing too much on the few returns that you get when the money goes back to the customer. And that's kind of like the beauty of Amazon, is that the reason why people are buying on Amazon at record-breaking numbers is because of the return policy, right? Where else can you buy an item within 30 days? If you change your mind for whatever reason, most items you can ship it back free, right? Take it to the UPS store. You can go to Kohl's nowadays. You can go to Amazon, brick and mortar bookstores to return it, and they make it so easy that buyers are just adding to cart, maybe they're clicking the buy now button right away. So we want it to be easy for customers to return, because we know that the majority of customers will not return these items, right? They're actually going to keep it. So that's really who you are focusing on, and not the few that are just returning these items.
Okay. So if you do have to return something, the removal order, let's say a customer returned the item and you want to remove it back to you, send it back to your house, it costs 50 cents, 50, for it to get shipped back to your house. So it's very affordable. If you don't want it to ship back to you and you want Amazon to destroy it, it's actually only 15 cents. And so depending on your business model, you might just want to send it back to you, repackage it up, and ship it back to Amazon if the item is in resellable condition. So we always get items sent back to us because we don't want Amazon to determine if an item is resellable, because sometimes their criteria is not the same as ours. So we rather do the checking first before we sell it back to the customer. Okay. And we talked about customer return. Yep, that's one of the things that's going to happen. It's all part of doing business. And then sometimes when you get a return and let's say the item is not good anymore, the prices has been lowered on Amazon, it's no longer profitable, you can return it back to the retailer. And we have done this numerous times. People just take it back if it was within the return period. I know Target is 90 days. Walmart, I believe, is also 90 days. So it's very easy to just get it back and then at least get your cost back. So return is pretty ugly, but at least there's something you can do about it. Like with private label, when we have items that couldn't sell, we didn't know what to do with it. We just had to list it for sometimes we have to lose a lot of money. We have to get it sent back to us, and we couldn't return it back to China. So we had to figure out something to do with it. We sold it on different marketplaces. And so it's a lot harder to return it if you decide that things aren't working out. So at least with Replen, there's a plan and there's a way out if you want to recoup your initial investment. Okay, so that was the bad, believe it or not. There's also the ugly.
Tedious, kind of the unsexy, as Amy sometimes calls, is kind of like more like back office type of tasks and kind of part of the business. So you know, at the end of the day, it's fun to like shop and buy products and ship them into Amazon and watch the money come in. Well, that's just the beginning, right? Now you have possibly a bona fide business, and you really need to start thinking about the health of your business. So, the first thing I want to talk about is a book called Profit First. It's a book from Mikowitz, I think his name is. So he came out with this book where he stresses that you can have a profitable item that's selling or a profitable business and you're making good money, and then you kind of grow the business and you're making more money. Well, guess what? It's possible that your business looks profitable on the outset. However, when you kind of lift up the covers and look at everything that's happening with it, is the business truly healthy? And what I mean by that is, from a financial point of view, is there a positive cash flow? Which means that in any given month, are you able to actually set aside money, or are you just taking that money and rolling back into the business and you're trying to grow it to the detriment of the health of the business? And as it turns out, we fell into the same trap where, we were so gung ho about growing the business that we're like, you know what, let's just throw these credit cards out there. We're just going to go ahead and just spend, right? We're always talking about, Amazon's a hungry beast. We have to feed the beast, which means that we have to buy more products and we have to buy it quickly. Q4 is coming. Let's go crazy and worry about paying these credit cards later. Well, lo and behold, you kind of get to a point where, you don't have that ability to shop anymore because the credit cards are maxed out, for example, right? So what Profit First teaches you, and I'm going to link the e-commerce version, which is from Cindy Thomason. So Cindy Thomason wrote a version of Profit First, which kind of goes over the same teachings that Michael did, except that she focuses more on e-commerce sellers, and in particular, Amazon e-commerce sellers. So it's perfect for sellers like us. And it's a really easy read. It's a quick read. Outsourcing is kind of what I hinted at earlier, where you can only do so much yourself, right? There's 24 hours a day. You spend a third of it sleeping, a third of it kind of spending time with family, and then the other third actually doing the business. So in those 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, give and take, we all know as business owners that we probably spend more like 60, 70, maybe even 80 hours a week. But it doesn't matter. Time is finite. There's only so much that you can do yourself. So when you find yourself growing and you need to decide whether it makes sense for you to hire somebody to help you out with some of the tasks that you do on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be a full-time person. It could be somebody part-time at first. And then you want to start them out with like very simple tasks, right? Here's how to basically, create listings, or here's how to even do some simple bookkeeping for me, or here's how to, if you want to get into packing and prepping, here's how to prep an item to go into Amazon. Here's how to do a shipment plan. So you kind of get the idea, right? Everything that we do and we've learned to do, we can teach it to somebody else to do it for us. And then all of a sudden, your business is just more than yourself. Now you're hiring, one or two part-time employees. Then you're making one of them full-time, and then you're adding a couple more full-time employees. Before you know it, you're able to kind of focus on the big picture, right? You're able to focus on the profitability of the company, the health of the business, like I was mentioning with the Profit First system, and then all the more routine tasks you can actually outsource to people. So that's really the only way to scale, because whether you have physical employees or you have virtual assistants. You just need people as a part of your business. And again, each employee that you bring on is just another investment in your business, right? Like you never want to pay somebody to kind of drain money from your company. At that point, maybe it's better that, you kind of part ways or you're not utilizing them in the right method. But if you're utilizing somebody in the right, using the right methods, then of course they're going to bring more money into your company than you're paying them. And that's true with any business that has employees, right? No company wants to hire employees that they're going to lose money on. Okay, so now when it comes time for commercial space, right? So what do I mean by that? So I think most of us are probably starting out in our homes, possibly a garage, right? Basement garage, living room, dining room, you name it, we've been there. So at some point, your business is growing so much that boxes are piling up to the ceiling. You have boxes everywhere, shipping supplies, all over the place. We have three young kids. They're climbing all over everything. They're grabbing spray bottles, and we're like chasing them. We're like, okay, enough's enough. This is not going to work. We need some type of space where we can actually dedicate our business to, and then make our home a home again, right? And not an Amazon fulfillment center slash warehouse. So when I talk about commercial space, I don't necessarily mean you have to go out there and get like a warehouse, right? It could be flex space. Flex space is just commercial space that's used for a variety of uses. It could be like like a storefront, or it could be a warehouse storage area too. It's a little bit more industrial, so it's a little bit cheaper. You never want to get like a retail type of location, right? Because you're not expecting to have customers walk in case, in fact, you don't want customers walking in, right? And you don't want to pay for that fancy retail storefront type of space. You want something kind of more industrial, more warehousey, but at the same time not too big either. But even before you get there, maybe you want to kind of get like a storage space, and that way you can kind of store your items in and your shipping supplies. That way you can still operate in your home, but then a lot of the stuff is also in a storage space. So after storage space, that's when the flex space that I was talking about makes sense. And then when you scale to a large enough size, a warehouse, right? Warehouses can be as small as a couple hundred square feet to a couple thousand square feet. So you really need to make sure that you choose a size that is most appropriate for you. So you also don't want to kind of be saddled down with anything that's long term. Try to find something month to month. We were lucky enough to find a warehouse space that was month to month. Gave us the flexibility to kind of say, maybe we can scale a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller depending on how our business is doing. So let's go ahead with the next item. So the logistics of it all, right? So when you start to have commercial space, the assumption is that you have all those employees, you have all those people working, and that's kind of where the operations side of things come in. We're fortunate enough to have CC be our operations manager, and she handled basically all the shoppers, coordinating with them to deliver the products. On top of that, she delivered to them a shopping list. So just kind of give you like a broad run through of like our different employee categories. So we have myself and Amy, so we have co-owners. Then we have Cece, who's our right-hand woman, so she runs our operations department. And then beneath Cece, we have a bunch of shoppers. So all they do is go to the local stores and they do all the shopping for us. And then we have packers, and those people take those items from the shoppers, prep them, and then ship them to Amazon. And they're all well versed in doing shipment plans, the new send to Amazon workflow, for example. CC did a great write up on that in the Women Sellers Academy bonus module. So the idea is that you really want to either have really good logistics and workflow in place to really make sure your business operates smoothly, or find yourself a CC. So she's one in a million. So she's ours. So go find yourself your own CC. But let's go ahead with the next bullet item. Okay, so rent, right? So make sure that when you do find that commercial space and you have that payroll in place, that you have enough money left over for rent, because at the end of the day, if you can't pay your rent, you're going to be evicted, and then that's pretty much the end of your business, right? Because how are we going to move all that stuff back into your home? So, and that goes along with being able to not or to avoid biting off more than you can chew. So that means getting a month to month type of lease on a warehouse or commercial space. And it also means kind of starting out, in a reasonable space. Make sure that you start off as small as you can and then try to scale up from there if possible. Okay, so I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier with employees, right? But when it comes to managing employees, you do need to kind of have a payroll system. If you go back to the online tools that we love, I believe I linked Gusto on there. Gusto is an online payroll company, very easy to set up, very easy to run payroll. So, not just for yourself, but also for all your employees, and you can also play contractors on there too. So the way that we typically like to kind of categorize contractors with employees is that contractors are people that kind of more work on they kind of set their own schedule, right? Because employees, you kind of give them their shifts and they work for you. These are the packers, right? Any type of people that are kind of working within your warehouse and they're taking directions from you. Those are employees. So contractors are going to be people like your shoppers, right? So these shoppers are ones that are, so think of like Instacart, or think of like a DoorDash driver. These are all contractors. They're not employees of those companies, but they're more kind of like, hire on demand type of workers. And these are what our shoppers are categorized at. So these shoppers basically get the list from us, and then they can decide when they want to go shopping, on their own time. So you can use Gusto to basically pay everybody across the board, whether it's contractor or employees. We use a software called On the Clock to basically allow people to kind of punch in and punch out, whether they're employees or contractors. Therefore, you have a very easy and accurate way to determine how much people, are should be paid. And the type of cycle that we like to pay on is actually dependent on your Amazon payouts, right? Because Amazon pays us out, for most people here, Amazon pays us out every 2 weeks. So you really want to set your, payroll schedule like the day of the payout or maybe the day after, just in case it takes like an extra day to get to your bank accounts. Therefore, whenever you run payroll, you have that nice amount of money that just got deposited into your account, and now you can go ahead and pay out all your employees.
In the beginning, it is going to be a little tricky, for sure. Like we're not going to sugarcoat it for you, but just make sure you take the calculated risk of the items that you're trying to sell. Make sure you know how to read Keepa so that you can, lower the risk of even though Replen is a super low risk business, you're still putting up your earned money to buy these inventory. And so just make sure you know what you're buying, and sometimes you just have to test it out. Like, don't be afraid to fail. If you buy an item and it only costs you like $20 to buy 3 units, it's a good way to get into the system and start learning it. Don't be afraid to fail, even though you think if you ship this in, it's not going to sell. It's not going to sell. Worst case scenario is you've lost $20. The better case scenario is that you learn how to do a shipment plan. You've started to see how the competition is. You learn how to read Keepa. It's it's all part of the journey. And so the next important thing I want to really emphasize is that you need to diversify your income, because one of the ugly thing about one of the ugly things about selling on Amazon is that Amazon, if they don't like you, they can shut you down. And that is a scary thing to think about. And I know there are so many people who their livelihood is on Amazon, and then their account gets shut down, or Amazon decide to sell your products and the prices gets lowered. But what you can do is start looking at other marketplaces like Walmart, eBay, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace. And so you kind of learn how to diversify your income. In the beginning, of course, Amazon could be your main source of income, but then eventually you need to start thinking about other ways to diversify your income as well. So we sold on eBay. We are starting to sell on Walmart. We want to dabble into different marketplaces. And so this is one of the things that we want you to start thinking about also. If it's just your side hustle, just Amazon is perfectly fine. And also value your time, because if you are, let's say your time is worth like $50 an hour, are you going to spend like 2 or 3 hours trying to find products, or are you going to pay somebody to do that? Or are you going to be the one prepping and packing? That's something that we pay our shoppers and packers $10 to $12 an hour to do. So you can pay somebody else to do that if that's how much you value your time. But in the beginning, of course, you have to learn the system and know how to do it so that you can teach your future employees how to do it as well. So if it's something that can be done by a software, I highly recommend just getting it. So we use, for example, a repricer. We use Inform to help us reprice the items, because prices on Amazon changes all the time. And I used to go into every single listing and just reprice the item, and it would take me about an hour, 2 hours a day. But now we just have a software to do it for us, and we tell them how to do it. We give them the parameters, and we say that, don't go lower than this price, or don't go too high, and it automatically does it for us. So we like to automate anything that can be outsourced with software. That's the first way that I would outsource. The second way to outsource is services. So the pod, for example, and I know Jen has been like, she's been like saying good things about the pod, but then she said pond. So it's not a pond, guys, it's a pod, like a pea pod. But that's the service that, I help you find products, and that's a monthly subscription. So if you are having a hard time finding products, then maybe consider signing up for the pod. And other services would be like bookkeeping, accounting. I don't know of any other things that can pop up on the top of my head, but those are the type of things that it's easily outsourceable. We have an assistant who helps us to manage the prices using Inform, because even though Inform does all the automatic pricing for you, sometimes you need to change the strategy. And so we have her looking at it on a weekly basis. So that's another service that you can outsource. And I think that's the last thing. All right, so I think at this point we will talk about questions. Brianna asks, you mentioned that you have 3 kids, but realistically, how many hours do you actually spend doing the business? So in the beginning, when I still had a full-time job, I used to be a retail pharmacist, and I worked really long hour shifts. So there are some days where my shifts were shorter, and I would spend 2 to 4 hours inside a store, and about 10 hours a week just doing product research. That's not counting prepping, packing, shipping to Amazon, none of that. So I would say in total about 10 to 15 hours a week in the beginning. Right now, this is our full-time job. So we both do this 40 hours a week. We try to do it during work hours. So we don't want to work when the kids are home or in the weekend. We really try to value family time as much as we can, because honestly, if we didn't have kids, we would be doing this 24/7, and we would just go crazy. But I joke about it with my husband that, if we didn't have kids, we would scale our business a lot faster. And because, daycare costs a lot. And so we would have more resources to put into our inventory. But our reason for starting the business is the kids, and that's our why. And so we joke about it, but if it wasn't for them, we really wouldn't be here. So it's very important for you guys to know what your why is, and just go back to that on days where you are facing challenges, like the ugly part of selling, and then you go back to your why. It will help you to, get over those humps. Let's see what other questions. Fawn's asking, I'm not familiar with the pod. I'm a newbie here. So so the pod is a service again where I help you find products. There are criteria that has to be met within the pod, such as it has to be at least $4 minimum net profit after shipping to you and after all Amazon fees, 40% ROI. Amazon is not selling on it, low competition, steady sales, all of that. And so you can check that out in the link that we provided.
So there's a question from Sophie on Zoom. So Sophie's asking, say we buy Replen from a brand. When we ship products to buyers, do we remove the tags with the brand name on them? So, you don't really need to remove anything besides like a price tag, right? Like we don't need the buyer to know that we bought it, for this price and then we're turning around and selling it for this price. So that's the only thing that I would remove from it. If you buy it from like a store, for example, I would remove any tags or stickers that show what store it came from. But in terms of like the brand name it themselves, I think it's perfectly fine to kind of have those type of tags or stickers on there.
So the next question is from Jen. Hi, Jen, again. How much would you say that you save in cost after switching from using a prep center to having your own warehouse? So Jen, so I tried out the prep center for some of my online arbitrage items, and we actually had a warehouse, a mini warehouse, in conjunction of using it. And I found that when our rent was so low and the amount that we were paying our employees to pack like a box of 100 items, they can pack that within like an hour. And so and we pay them like $12 an hour. But for 100 items, I would have to pay at least $1 per unit for a prep center to do it for me. And so just doing simple math, I already saved like $90 for one shipment plan, if that makes sense. And so we ended up going away with Prep Center. And the reason why we decided to use it because our space was getting limited. So we were getting more items in than our space allowed. And so we had to get a bigger warehouse. And so that was sort of like our problem is that we wanted to continue growing, but we didn't have the space for it. And so we decided to try out the Prep Center, and it ended up eating up the cost. And there are people who are able to use the Prep Center so well, like they're able to find higher profitable items. So just make sure you protect your profit margin, because if the item you only making $3 profit and you're paying the Prep Center $1, you end up only making $2, then I don't think that's worth your time. So I hope that helped answer your question.
So we have a bunch of questions on Facebook. So I got one from Nadine. Hey Nadine, she's one of our regulars here on the Facebook side of the Zoom calls. So Nadine is asking, without giving too much away, how do you scale for Christmas, and what do you think will be better substitutes? So this kind of goes back to my profit first explanation. So the thing that you don't want to do about Q4 is kind of get wrapped into the whole the hype and the frenzy of it all, and end up putting everything in your credit cards, thinking that you're going to make back the money on it. Sure, things are going to be selling faster, but also you're going to be spending way faster, especially if you're using credit cards, right? So what you want to do is, because it's Q4, it's the last quarter of a year, what I would suggest is you spend the first 3 quarters making those sales, and then tucking away money in preparation for Q4. So you never want to use money that you don't have in order to buy inventory, because then you're going to get into a vicious, what we call like a debt cycle, right? Debt means credit cards or loans or however else. At the end of the day, it's not your money, but you're going to go shopping with it, and then you're going to worry about paying it off later, and then you're kind of in that hole. So again, just kind of be disciplined throughout the year, and then just set aside money for Q4, and then try to buy as much as you can in a reasonable with a reasonable amount of money, and then just start selling. The beauty about Q4 is that it's going to come around next year too. So that's why you don't want to kind of get all wrapped up and go crazy for it, right? Just just treat it like any other quarter of the year, except that sales are going to tick up a little bit and you're going to be a little bit more prepared for it. But besides that, just kind of, again, spend wisely and making sure that the health of your business is the most important part of it, because you do want to be there for the next Q4.
Okay, guys, we are going to sign out. And so just let us know if you have any additional questions. We'll definitely try to get back to you as soon as we can. And have a great weekend. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoy it. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I do go on live every single week to talk about a specific topic. And so we would love to have you back next week. And also leave a comment. Let me know what you like about it, maybe your struggles that you have right now with Amazon. I'd love to hear from you. And again, I will see you next week, and take care, guys. Bye.